Okay, so today you're going to be witnessing the very first Kitchen Vixen video. We're going to be making apple oat buttermilk muffins. And so we've got the oven preheating at 350. And we're just going to start off with a cup of oats. And a cup of whole wheat flour. Okay. Then to our dry mixture, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I have my baking powder right here. Actually, that's my baking soda. So we're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Sorry about that. And 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So I'm going to have to use my half teaspoon measure in there. It's too small. 3 and 4 half teaspoons. Makes 2 teaspoons. Okay, and then we're going to add just half a teaspoon of salt or a pinch of salt or 2. Alright, and we're going to mix in I like to mix in my spices with the dry ingredients. It helps get everything well combined. So we're going to put in a whole teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And then I'm just going to grate a little bit of fresh nutmeg in there. I know a lot of people don't like the flavor of nutmeg, but if you have the chance to try it fresh, it's the best way to have it, and it will change your mind about this spice. Okay, so we've got our spices in there. Pretty much all of our dry ingredients ready to go. I'm just going to give that a quick stir. Now, I like to use buttermilk in my muffins because it gives it a nice moist texture and a nice tangy flavor. So that's why we're using buttermilk. So it calls for 1 cup of buttermilk, a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, so put that right in there too, 1 egg, and let me just beat that up. Now I've modified this recipe a little bit. So instead of the full amount of sugar, which I haven't put in the dry ingredients yet because I forgot, instead of the full amount of sugar, I'm going to use some apple butter. So I'm going to put that in the wet ingredients because it is a wet ingredient. So I'm just going to mix that in there along with our other wet ingredients like the buttermilk and the oil and the egg. So in that goes. Stir, stir. So that was half a cup. So the recipe called for the full cup of sugar, so we're just going to put half a cup of sugar in with our dry ingredients. And stir that up. Okay, now this recipe is almost done right now, believe it or not. Very quick, very easy. We're just going to pour our liquid in here into the dry ingredients, just like that. I'm going to be careful not to overmix it. Now you could add any number of things to this recipe as far as taste and flavor goes. You could add, I'm adding in 2 Granny Smith apples right now. They've been peeled and diced already. But if you like raisins or nuts, you can add those too. I'm actually going to add, for a little bit something different, some pine nuts to the recipe. Actually, now let's make that pecan. So I'm going to add about half a cup of pecans. Once I open the bag here. Chopped pecans. So in that goes. And finally, we're just going to add a couple teaspoons of vanilla. Everybody loves vanilla. So 1 and 2, and that goes. Alright. So this is pretty much your recipe right here. Pretty straightforward. Whip that together while the apple coring and peeling time in just a couple of minutes, right? And so now we're going to take our muffin pan. My spoon is getting lost in there. And we're just going to give it a quick spray with a non-stick cooking spray. This one's canola oil based. Alright. Then we're going to use a sweeper. This is what a sweeper is. It's an ice cream scoop with the mechanism to clear the scoop. And we're just going to use that to put in even scoops of muffin into the tin. This kind of ensures that all of your muffins end up being the same, or close to anyway, the same size. A little bit harder with the chunks of apple in it, but you get the idea. So, get rid of that spoon. You could probably cut your apples a little bit smaller if you don't want such big chunks. I don't mind it. It gives it a nice texture, but everybody's different, so whatever you like, just go ahead and do it. Now, part of why I use the apple butter in this recipe too is because I changed the recipe from using all-purpose flour to using whole wheat and oats. So the apple butter gives it that little bit of extra moisture, which will help keep the muffins moist despite the extra fiber and stuff in it, because sometimes the whole wheat tends to dry out a little bit. So, and there we go, there's 12 muffins and they're ready to go in the oven. So they're going to go in there for about 25 minutes. Okay? Okay, so these have been cooling for a little while now. I let them cool a bit in the muffin tin first before I took them out and put them on a cooling rack. The reason you do that with low-fat muffins is because they tend to be very moist if you make them right. So the moisture has to kind of seep back into the middle of the muffin before you can take them out of the pan. Otherwise they fall apart when you try to take them out. The other thing you'll notice with these, they don't rise very much. They're quite dense, but packed with nutritional value. You can even see the chunks of apple in here. They've got pecans in them, oats, whole wheat flour, and they're relatively low fat. So in the long run, you really can't do better than something like this for your family, as opposed to, you know, the conventional blueberry muffin, which is really just white cake disguised as a healthy breakfast. So I hope you enjoyed this first taping, and hopefully we'll be doing many, many more. Happy baking!